What if I told you that the biggest secret about the Iraqi dinar isn't a hidden revaluation date, but the overwhelming publicly available data that completely contradicts the fantasy? Welcome to the reality check you won't find in those hyped-up online forums. As of today, the Central Bank of Iraq's official exchange rate stands firm at 320 Iraqi dinars for $1. This isn't a secret. It's published on their website and confirmed daily through the currency auctions they conduct, which inject hundreds of millions of dollars into the economy just to maintain this very stability. The so-called currency shock that's been trending isn't a shock of revaluation. The shocking disconnect between these verifiable facts and the lucrative fiction being sold to hopeful investors. Let's peel back the layers and look at the cold, hard numbers that the gurus conveniently ignore. The central bank's foreign currency reserves, the very war chest that would be necessary to support any kind of significant currency move, are not being hoarded for a secret RV launch. According to the latest International Monetary Fund reports and analysis from financial institutions like Standard Chartered, these reserves have actually been under pressure, fluctuating between 100 billion and 104 billion, and are primarily used as a strategic buffer to protect the country from external economic shocks and to pay for essential imports like food and electricity. They are a stability mechanism, not a secret weapon for creating millionaires. The entire narrative of a pending revaluation collapses when you understand the fundamental purpose of these reserves: to prevent collapse, not to engineer a windfall for foreign currency speculators. The primary tool for maintaining this stability is the central bank's daily foreign currency auction. Every single business day, the bank sells hundreds of millions of US dollars to private banks and exchange houses within Iraq at a rate very close to the official 320 IQD peg. In the last full week of trading, for example, the bank sold over 1.2 billion into the market. Why would they do this? The reason is simple and grounded in economic necessity, not conspiracy. Iraq is an import-dependent economy. It needs a steady and reliable flow of US dollars to pay for everything from medicine and wheat to cars and machinery. If the central bank were to suddenly stop these auctions or drastically reduce the supply of dollars, the value of the dinar would plummet on the open market, causing inflation and hardship for ordinary Iraqis. This daily auction is the most powerful evidence against the revaluation theory. A revaluation, meaning a deliberate, massive strengthening of the dinar against the dollar, would make all of Iraq's essential imports catastrophically more expensive in dinar terms, effectively bankrupting the state and its citizens. The government's entire budgetary framework is built on the current exchange rate, from calculating oil revenue, which makes up over 90% of the budget, to paying the salaries of millions of public sector employees. Changing this rate dramatically would be an act of economic self-sabotage that no credible government or central bank would ever undertake. So, where does this pervasive December 1st or any other imminent date rumor come from? It's a cycle fueled by a powerful mixture of hope and a fundamental misunderstanding of financial mechanisms. When the Central Bank of Iraq engages in routine technical discussions with the international financial community, like its ongoing dialogue with the U.S. Federal Reserve regarding anti-money laundering protocols and the sourcing of physical dollar notes, these complex banking operations are stripped of their context and repackaged by online influencers as secret meetings to finalize the revaluation. When the government discusses a technical process like redenomination or deleting zeros, a logistical move to simplify large cash transactions by introducing new, lower denomination banknotes, it is immediately and incorrectly heralded as proof of an upcoming revaluation. A redenomination changes the appearance of the currency. A 25,000 dinar note might become a 25 dinar note, but its actual purchasing power remains identical. It's like exchanging a $100 bill for five $20 bills. You haven't become richer. This deliberate conflation of terms creates a perpetual motion machine of false hope, where every mundane financial report is twisted into proof that the big day is just around the corner, keeping the audience engaged and, crucially, willing to buy more dinar at inflated prices from the very people selling the dream. The real reveal here is that the data has been telling us the true story all along, if we're willing to listen to the official sources instead of the speculative noise. Now that we've seen the official data, you might be asking a crucial question: why can't a country with so much oil wealth simply decide to make its currency stronger? The answer lies in the brutal economic realities and deep-seated structural problems that form an iron cage around the Iraqi dinar, making a dramatic revaluation not just unlikely, potentially catastrophic for Iraq itself. Let's move beyond the exchange rate number and dive into the engine room of Iraq's economy, And what you'll find is a system wired for stability, not for a spectacular moonshot. The single greatest factor is Iraq's overwhelming, near-total dependence on crude oil. To understand this, you need to grasp a simple but powerful number. Over 90% of the Iraqi government's revenue and roughly 99% of its foreign exchange earnings come directly from selling oil. This isn't just a statistic, it's the entire foundation of the state. This makes Iraq a classic rentier state, an economy that doesn't generate wealth through taxes or a diversified productive base, but essentially rents out its natural resources to the world. The government's budget, and by extension its ability to function, lives and dies by the global price of a barrel of oil. When prices are high, the state is flush with dollars, which it uses to pay for everything from importing food and medicine to funding the massive public sector. When prices crash, the entire system goes into crisis, forcing the government to drain its foreign reserves or go into debt, as we've seen in recent years. This fundamental vulnerability means that the central bank's primary, overriding mission is not to make foreign speculators rich, but to ensure currency stability, to keep the import-dependent economy running and prevent social unrest. A strong, revalued dinar would actually be a poison pill for this system. It would make Iraq's non-oil exports, what little exist, uncompetitive overnight, and more importantly, it would shrink the value of every dollar of oil revenue when converted into dinars to pay government salaries, crippling the state's ability to function before it has even begun to build a real alternative economy. This oil dependency is then supercharged by a political system that is fundamentally designed to prevent the kind of decisive, reform-oriented action needed for genuine economic strength. The political framework established after 2003, known as the Muassasat system, apportions government ministries and positions based on ethno-sectarian quotas. In practice, this has turned the state into a collection of fiefdoms where political parties use ministries not as instruments of public service, but as tools for patronage, distributing jobs and contracts to their supporters. The result is a bloated, inefficient, and incredibly expensive public sector. Here's a number that should shock you. According to the World Bank, the Iraqi government spends nearly 60% of its entire budget just on public sector wages and pensions for over 40% of the national workforce. This isn't a sustainable economic model. It's a massive state-run employment program that leaves almost no money for the critical infrastructure, healthcare, and education investments that could build a better future. This system creates a powerful, entrenched political constituency that fiercely resists any economic reform that might threaten its privileges. Why would any politician in this system vote for a policy that would strengthen the currency but could simultaneously destabilize the government's finances and trigger massive layoffs or social upheaval? The incentives are perfectly aligned against it. Corruption, which siphons billions of dollars away from productive investment, further cripples the system. This toxic combination of oil dependence, political fragmentation, and a bloated public wage bill creates a perfect storm of inertia. The government is trapped in a cycle of using its oil revenue to pay salaries to maintain short-term stability, while having no resources left to invest in the long-term diversification that would eventually justify a stronger currency. It's trying to keep the lights on today while the roof is slowly caving in. So when you hear rumors of a big reveal or a secret plan, you must view it through this lens of structural reality. The government and the central bank are not secretly planning a wealth transfer to foreign dinar holders. They are engaged in a daily, visible struggle to manage a precarious and fragile economic equilibrium. The recent discussions about potential fiscal reforms with the International Monetary Fund are not about a revaluation, but about avoiding a devaluation and a full-blown economic crisis. The government is being pushed to consider painful measures like reducing its massive subsidy bill and broadening its tax base, the exact opposite of preparing for a currency windfall. Shock that the Iraqi government is preparing for is not a positive one for dinar speculators, but the shock of potential austerity. Path to a genuinely stronger Iraqi dinar is not a secret meeting or a flick of a policy switch. It is a long, difficult, and decades-long journey of building institutions, fighting corruption, diversifying the economy away from oil, and creating real value through agriculture, industry, and technology. Until you see tangible, sustained progress on those fronts, not rumors on a forum, the economic fundamentals show that the dinar's cage is not just locked, it's structurally welded shut. The real investment opportunity will emerge only when Iraq successfully breaks free from these constraints, a process that will be measured in generations, not days. So, after uncovering the official data and confronting the powerful structural barriers, we arrive at the most critical question of all: what is the genuine, evidence-based path forward for the Iraqi dinar, and what does this mean for you as someone seeking truthful information in a sea of misinformation? The realistic future for Iraq's currency is not a single explosive event, but a slow, arduous journey of national rebuilding. The International Monetary Fund has laid out a clear roadmap, emphasizing that unlocking Iraq's economic potential requires a comprehensive agenda focused on improving governance, intensifying the fight against corruption, streamlining labor market and business regulations, and strengthening the banking sector. This is the unglamorous foundation upon which a stronger economy must be built. The IMF estimates that such a package of reforms could double Iraq's non-oil economic growth in the medium term, which is the only sustainable way to create an economy that can genuinely support a more valuable currency. We are already seeing early tentative steps in this direction, not in the currency's value, but in its infrastructure. The Central Bank of Iraq is actively pushing for a digital banking revolution, streamlining wire transfers and promoting electronic payments for salaries to reduce the economy's reliance on physical cash and curb corruption. Furthermore, projects like the Integrated Financial Management System, IFMIs, supported by international bodies, are being piloted to create a transparent and auditable public financial system, directly targeting the corruption that siphons away the nation's resources. On the ground, the government is investing in economic diversification, such as a major aid $50 billion dinar initiative to roll out modern irrigation systems, which has already increased agricultural productivity by 40%, the kind of tangible, non-oil sector development that builds real economic strength from the ground up. These are the metrics that truly matter for the dinar's long-term health, far more than any speculative rumor. For you, the investor and viewer, this new understanding demands a fundamental shift from chasing fantasy to embracing evidence-based analysis. The most valuable investment you can make today is not in the dinar itself, but in your own financial literacy and critical thinking skills. To navigate this landscape, you need to monitor the right indicators. First, watch the Central Bank of Iraq's foreign exchange reserves, which are the bedrock of currency stability and were reported at approximately $95 billion in mid-2025. Second, follow Iraq's oil production levels and global oil prices, as these directly determine the dollar inflows that support the entire economy, with oil prices recently hovering around $67 per barrel against a budget breaking price of $84. The fiscal pressure is immense. Third, pay close attention to the IMF's periodic assessments and whether Iraq is making progress on its reform commitments, as these reports provide an unbiased health check on the economy. Fourth, track the implementation of technical systems like the IFMIs, as success here is a direct indicator of improving institutional quality. And finally, stay informed about domestic political developments, as stability in Baghdad is a prerequisite for any coherent economic policymaking. By focusing on these concrete data points, you arm yourself with reality, which is the most powerful tool an investor can possess against the tidal wave of online speculation and false hope. The sobering conclusion from all expert analysis is that a dramatic dinar revaluation remains a fantasy. Credible financial outlets assigning a probability of just 25% to a scenario of gradual strengthening, contingent on successful and sustained reforms over many years. The most likely outcome with a 60% probability is continued managed stability, with the central bank using its reserves to maintain the exchange rate peg around the current range of 320 dinars per dollar. There is even a 15% probability of a depreciation scenario if oil prices fall further or instability erupts. What's completely absent from these professional, data-driven assessments is any mention of the life-changing windfalls promised by online gurus. The real big reveal is that sustainable wealth doesn't come from secretive currency shocks. It comes from the slow, disciplined accumulation of knowledge and the patience to invest based on economic reality. The Iraqi people deserve a future built on genuine prosperity, not on the false hopes of foreign speculators, and that future will be measured in decades of hard work, not in a single December announcement. So as we end this investigation, I want to leave you with this empowering thought. You now have the knowledge to see through the noise. You can choose to be part of an informed community that values truth over hype. If this deep dive has provided you with the clarity you've been searching for, then your next step is clear. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell, because we are committed to delivering more content that respects your intelligence and provides you with verified data-driven analysis. Share this video with anyone who might be caught in the speculative web. You might give them the most valuable gift of all, the truth. Leave a comment below with your biggest takeaway. Let's build a community of savvy, reality-based investors. And most importantly, carry this principle into all your financial decisions. True, lasting security is built on the unshakable foundation of facts.